Hey you guys, Steve Whipple, that's me for WhipFit coming to you tonight with a question and answer segment to some questions that I get mostly concerning my spin class via Facebook, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and mostly YouTube. Most of the comments I get are pretty great. Thank you for that. Comments from people diagnosed with Parkinson's that forget that they have Parkinson's when they do my spin class, or new moms that can't get to the gym, so they're doing my spin classes at home with their new awesome baby, or someone with a thyroid condition that's stoked that they found me. Thank you for all of those. I read every comment and it means the world to me. If you go onto my Instagram right now, there's 3 comments in general that specifically touch my heart. So thank you. On YouTube, I find it very interesting that most of the negative comments I get come from people who choose to leave comments anonymously. Yeah. If you want to say something negative, that's great. I always welcome positive and constructive feedback. But if you want to say something kind of like bitchy and like be a hater, just for the sake of doing it, with no way for me to actually like respond back to you directly, I think that's pretty lame. So, if you're one of those, tonight, I'm going to answer your questions. Got them on these cards. But also I get regular questions too, just about like, how do you do this? Why are you doing it this way? Those questions are great. So let's start with some of them. You're going to pick out the informative versus the addressing the hater ones pretty easily. You're a smart group. All right, first question. Why does the instructor not face the class? LOL. Lol. So that's a fair question. My videos always focus on me and or the class behind me. What you don't see is the full wall of mirrors right in front of all of us, because I like to do the class with everyone. I like to teach it with them. So when I do something on the right, we're all on the right. When I do something on the left, we're all on the left, and we can all see each other. So I guess it probably looks like I'm not facing them at all, but I can see all of them. And it's stadium seating, so it stacks right up, so I can see every single person, which there's always 30. So that's a valid question. Pretty cool. Next one. How do you set up your spin bike? That's a really good and fair question, and it's got some simple guidelines to it. It's not an exact science, because the exact way you know your spin bike is set up right is comfort. But if you stand next to your spin bike on the floor, you want your seat to hit about your hip. That's a rough guideline. So that's where you want to be. Line up your seat with your hip, and then what's the distance between your handlebars and your seat? It's knuckles to elbow. That will be your space from your handlebars to your seat. Space that out. Then hop on your bike. Start to pedal. Get your feet clipped in, or get your feet in the cages. You never want your legs to go completely straight. You always want to bend in your knee. But you don't want to be too squatted down so you feel like you're low. But if you're too high up, you're going to feel like you're reaching, and you don't want that either, okay? So some rough guidelines. Make sure you tighten all of your adjustment knobs for your handlebars, your straps for your shoes, the back of your bike, your seat, and then just have a good class. So thank you for that question. Why don't you post more full spin classes? That's a great question too. One that I wish I could do more often. It has to do with copyright infringement. So a lot of times I will go to post a full class on YouTube, and I will get it shot back to me that the class has been muted due to copyright infringement. I get it, you know, I'm using a song in class, but no one can record it, and certainly no one can download it, because I talk all over it. So that's why sometimes you get a full class, and that's why sometimes you get chopped up pieces. So, good question. All right, why get spin shoes versus regular sneakers? Okay, sneakers are great, especially when you're first starting out spin. You're not going to know yet, do I love this? Do I want to do this all the time? So sneakers are great. Spin shoes, once you get them, those are the ones that have the clips on the bottom, and you clip into the other side of your pedals, the one that doesn't have the strap to slide your sneakers in, your cages. Once you clip in, you're going to notice the difference, and the difference is your spin shoes will change your center of gravity. The clips for most spin shoes are like a little bit on the front, but kind of going to the center of your foot, versus your sneakers, which when you slide them into the cage, what ends up happening is you press your toes down because that's just gravity, and you end up with your foot mostly going down into the cage, versus a spin shoe, which is has much more of a stronger foundation, and it changes your center of gravity. So that's how you can do a lot of the standing stuff that I do. It's because of spin shoes. They're usually around $100, a little bit more based on how fancy you want to get. But if you want to do spin all the time, it's a really good investment, and it really will change your spin experience. So that's a good question too. Thanks for that one. All right. Your upper body movements are hazardous. So I think that refers to all the kind of arm movements and stuff we do. We twist. Is it counter rotation, counter movements? Yes. I've been teaching spin now for 5 years, going on 6. Do you know how many injuries I have had? 0. And I have 0, and I'm not just saying that just because that's how I would make my case. I've had 0 injuries because at the beginning of every single class, I tell everyone that button in the center of your bike is your brake. If anything goes wrong, press flat down on it and your pedals will stop moving. And the other part I say is, if you don't want to do anything, don't do it. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. I don't call people out. I don't stop the class. I don't embarrass anyone. That's not how I do it. So I've had 0 injuries. None. Not one. I guess it could happen in a spin class because it can happen in anything. You can get injured in any physical activity, including yoga, which is stretching. For someone to say that my spin classes are hazardous, maybe they are, if my people aren't paying attention. My people tend to pay attention. I'm not sure what that beep was. I'm sure everything's fine. All right, so that was from an anonymous hater. Gotcha. All right, another one, rolling right into it. I hope you're insured. I am, and I'm certified. Next one. Your stretching at the beginning of class is lame. Okay, cool. It is a spin class. It is not a stretching class. I teach yoga. I teach restorative yoga. I teach a flow class. I teach chair yoga, which is all stretching. In those classes, I'm not doing any spin. And I've been to plenty of spin or indoor cycle classes where they do 0 stretching. You get on your bike, you start pedaling, and class begins. So the stretch I do at the beginning of class is about a minute long. It's not going to be a super phenomenal stretch. We're there to spin. And I always say at the end of class, there is no such thing as too much stretching. So if you didn't get a good stretch before or after class, do more. There's never anything wrong with more stretching. But again, it's a spin class. So, aloha. All right, what's the difference between spin, cycle, and a road bike? This one is a really good question, and a little bit complicated. I'm going to break it down the best that I can. So, there is indoor cycle classes. That is where stationary bikes are in a room. You hop on a stationary bike and you pedal. There are different styles to it, but all classes at a gym are indoor cycle, unless they are specifically under the program of the Spin Certified Instructors program of the Spin program. There are spin bikes, and there's a specific program to get certified in to teach the spin program. That is completely separate than indoor cycle. At the gym I work at, we don't teach spin, we teach all cycle classes. So that does not mean we have to follow the spin routine. If you're certified in spin, you can teach spin and use the name. None of the classes at the gym I work at have the word spin in them at all. They are all cycle titled. So, you know, when I say spin, should I really be saying spin? I probably should be saying cycle. But it's sort of like, you know, Oreos. Great comparison. When you go to the store and you want Oreos, you know that they're like the dark brown, almost black cookies with that white filling in the center. Those are Oreos. There are generic versions of Oreos as well. I don't even know what they're called, like Happy Cookies. So you could call it Happy Cookies, or you could just cut to the chase and say Oreos. But everyone kind of knows what you're going with. So sometimes I say spin, it's indoor cycle, unless it's a spin certified program. What's the difference between indoor cycle and a road bike? Stuff I do in my cycle class, I would not recommend doing out on the road. You know, we do push-ups in my cycle class with our handlebars. If you did that on the road, you would look crazy. You would probably get injured, and you would probably look crazy. That's worth emphasizing. But we're not on the road. We're in a classroom on a stationary bike. So if we want to do push-ups, you're not going anywhere. You know, you're in your seat. Just as if you were to take a cycle bike and put it out on the road at like a stop sign, that bike's not going to go anywhere. Traffic's not going to like you very much. So they're not the same thing, and to try to apply the same rules or concepts to one versus the other actually doesn't hold up, because they're so different that why would you compare them at all? So that was our final question. So a bunch of really good questions and a bunch of kind of like not so nice questions. But you know, hey, the comments I get that are positive, that make me know that I'm doing something good for people, far outweigh the negative ones. And a good buddy of mine told me, you must be doing something right, because if you get haters, you're doing your job right. So that was the first round of question and answers with WHIPFIT. If you want to leave comments with your name and stuff like that, I'll probably do this again. I'll address your questions. I'm happy to do it, okay? But always try to give yourself some positivity, because if you give it, you get it back. And that's how that whole thing works, all right? Hope you guys have a great night. Thanks. Aloha.